as Muslims trying and making an effort, an earnest effort to learn, firstly, to learn, secondly, to properly understand, thirdly, making an effort to attempt and practicing and implementing the Sunnah. Allah bringing us back together upon these points right here in itself is more than a blessing. More than a blessing. For us to still have the blessing of Islam and Iman. And if you don't think that the blessing of Islam is a reality and something that can be taken away from you, and something that's very, very widespread in the times that we live in, and I'll give you something that's going on right now in Saudi Arabia, in Medina. Maybe about, let's say, a month before now, okay, there was one of my teachers, Sheikh Saleh Asindi, Hafizahullah, and another doctor, Dr. Saeed, who run a program called Mashru' al-Yaqeen. It's called Mashru' al-Yaqeen, which is a project for people, Muslims from Saudi Arabia who commit apostasy and leave Islam. Most of them go towards being atheists or agnostics or whatever you want to call them. The problem is so bad, so widespread, that they actually have books, websites, forums to combat and to fight this. Muslims, or were Muslims, from Medina or from Riyadh or Jeddah or parts of Saudi Arabia that are no longer Muslims. So the point that we're trying to get to is not saying this or saying that or trying to pick out any country, any place. No. We're trying to show you that if, guidance is from Allah, and for Allah to forsake you and to leave you to your own ignorant, oppressive nafs, that's something that you have to ask Allah to keep you from all the time. And this is from the dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make. Ya muqallib al-qulub, oh turner of hearts, keep my heart firm upon belief in you, upon obedience to you. Okay, so this is a very, very serious issue, of disease of the heart, and its levels and its stages. And the greatest blessing is the blessing of Islam. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned when he was speaking about the different Sufi groups during his times, and their opposition towards the Kitab and the Sunnah. And creed, okay? Many people, when they talk about Sufis, the first thing they talk about is the dhikr. This bid'ah and that bid'ah. So that's a band-aid on a broken arm. It's a band-aid on a broken arm. The first primary concept between Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and between any group that's left the way of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, any group, right or left, specifically these people, is that which is called Masadir al-Talaqi. Is that what's called Masadir al-Talaqi. Where do you take your deen from? Where is your proof and evidence extracted? Where is it taken from? What is proof and evidence? This is a very important concept, even to this day, where we live in. Okay? Before we get into this trivial issue, what is dalil in the deen? Is a dream dalil, what you see in a dream? An emotion, a feeling, isolation for 6 months, for a year, for 3 weeks, and then Allah inspires you with something, and then you go and commit it. Don't think that people just make these innovations or whatever they do baseless. No, they have reasons behind them. They have, okay, it's a concept. The thought precedes the movement, okay? So from the most distinguishing factors, or the furuq, the biggest fork in the road is this here. Is the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, our deen, Kitab, Sunnah, Ijma'. Kitab, Sunnah, Ijma'. Book, Sunnah, consensus. What they agreed upon. And the strongest consensus, and the best consensus, and the easiest consensus is the consensus of the Sahaba. As Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala also mentioned. وَالْإِجْمَعَ الَّذِي يَنْضَبِطْ هُوَ إِجْمَعُ الصَّحَابَة. He says the ijma', the consensus that you can clearly, accurately trace back and reference to is that which the companions agreed on. That which they agreed on unanimously. Okay? So that is our deen. Why do we pray like this? Why don't we pray like that? Kitab, Sunnah, Ijma'. Okay? When we fast, how we fast? Kitab, Sunnah, Ijma'. When we make dhikr, how we make dhikr. When we don't make dhikr, because of Shaykh, Kitab, Sunnah, Ijma'. As for the other people, no. It's maybe the opinion of a Shaykh, dream of a Shaykh, dhawq, kashf, wujd, all these different terms, spinning, dancing, singing, isolation, and then they become inspired and they get divine revelation. It's reality. So that is the, as the Arabs say, marabat al-faras. That's the marabat al-faras. That's the reins of the horse right there, which pulls the horse back or allows the horse to go forth. Not this issue of dhikr and it. No, it goes deeper than that. See what I'm trying to get to? That is, it's much deeper than just some small issues or small or large. It's deeper than that. And this is a very important concept that cannot be explained in words, especially in this class right here. The concept of masadir at-talaqi. Where do you take your religion from? Is it from what Allah says, His Rasul, and what the people of the past agreed upon, or does it come from another source? Does it come from another source? And don't think that the shaitan isn't crafty. He's been misleading people for years. People that were smarter than you, stronger than you, had a greater love for Allah and His Messenger than you. And he misled them. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ رَبِّ إِنَّهُنَّ أَضْلَلْنَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ. As Ibrahim alayhi salam said, "Oh my Lord, these idols, shirk, has misled countless people." And the scholars, they explain, بِمَا فِيهِمْ الْعُقَلَاءِ. From among that kathir, people that had great brains, great minds, and they were misled. And some of them left the fold of Islam. وَلِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ. There was apostasy in the earliest generations of the Muslims. People left Islam. So what do you think about 1435 or 2014? So it's a very serious concept of asking Allah to keep your heart firm upon Islam. Now, how do we get to this point? We were mentioning what Ibn Taymiyyah was saying about the belief of Islam, about the Sunnah, in contrast to the belief and the practice of some of those Sufi groups. What did Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah say? And it's a golden statement. Take this down. Golden. He says, "Inna a'zam al-karama." He says the greatest karama from Allah, being a wali of Allah, being a saint. The greatest level of that is obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. For Allah to allow you to have guidance and obedience. What more could you want? What more could you ask for? Who is the greatest of Allah's slaves? Without a doubt, every Muslim is going to say who? Nobody's going to different than no Muslim. This Muslim, that Muslim from this country, Alim, Jahil, everyone's going to say the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what did Allah call him? What did Allah say about him? When he talked about the revelation of the Quran, when he spoke about Isra wa Mi'raj, when he spoke about if you have any doubt, every single time he said, Abdina, Abdina. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده وإن كنتم في ريب مما نزلنا على عبد. So that's the greatest karama, is to be a righteous, obedient slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you think about that statement, how deep and profound that is, and you look at your life on a daily basis, how many people can't be a slave of Allah? They don't know how to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a very serious concept. Before you get to this special level, and that special level, and this special term, and this special way, and this special thing, and this intricate, detailed, technical thing, can you be a slave of Allah? It's a very important concept. So we don't want to spend too much time on this. However, we want to reflect on this ni'mah, the ni'mah of being a Muslim, the ni'mah of trying to seek knowledge, the ni'mah of trying to implement the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Blessing upon blessing upon blessing, and for you to even understand the blessing of Allah and to realize that it's a blessing, that in itself is a what? It's a blessing. So you can never ever be 100% thankful to Allah. Everything. It doesn't stop, because all of those blessings, and you die, and inshallah you go to Jannah, which is also a blessing, and your status and your rank being raised in Jannah is another blessing. I get that. So the slave has to realize the position that he has, that he is a slave, and don't think that Islam, you're doing a favor for Allah, as many of us do. As Allah said in the Quran, يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكُمْ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا. Allah said in Surah Al-Hujurat, they bring it up as a favor that they have accepted Islam. No, Allah said the opposite. Allah gave a favor to you by making you Muslims. Many of us, we have this concept, whether it is with in verbal statement or in physical action, body movement and disposition. As the Arabs, they say, lisanul hali wa lisanul maqal. There are two types of tongues that you have according to the Arabs. The first is the tongue that actually moves, and the second is the tongue of the body, lisanul hal. Your body movement, how you act, how you behave, how you conduct and carry yourself. Okay, so therefore many of us, we have this attitude, this jahiliyyah attitude, that I'm doing Islam a favor, I'm doing the sunnah a favor, I'm doing knowledge a favor by me studying and teaching. It's the opposite. It's the opposite. So it's a very important concept that I want to remind myself of. Bidnillah Azza wa Jalla, may Allah keep us as Muslims until death. I mean. Sorry, before we get started in our class, before we make our review for our class, raise your hand if you made review of any of the durus we did last winter. Anybody who sat down and reviewed their notes or reviewed the recordings? Raise your hand, inshallah. MashaAllah.
But that was done some time ago.
Al-Muhim, sorry, Uncle Faz. Alhamdulillah. Anyone else? Anyone else? Nobody else? Sorry, khair, inshallah. Next question. The question is for Salahuddin. It's for the Sheikh, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. We saw the Sheikh, mashallah, for Hajj. Allahu Akbar. Tayyib, Sheikh, what is the ruling on changing your name when you become a Muslim? A person accepts Islam, he used to be a Christian or a Jew or a Catholic or whatever. Does he have to change his or her name?
No.
He doesn't?
No.
Okay, next question. What is the permissibility of changing your name? Including the last name. My name is Ronald Martin, for example. Is it obligatory or is it permissible for me to change my name? Saiful Islam Adin?
Yes.
It's permissible. I can get rid of my last name.
No, not your last name.
Not the last name.
Not that I know.
Sorry, what's the delay, Sheikh? No, please be kind enough.
I don't have all the
No delay.
facts, right? But from what I've read, it's you should keep your tribal name.
Tribal name. Khair,
So
inshallah.
that you can be identified.
Right, Tribal Martin. Right, mumkin. Najm, please be like a Najm, be like a star.
The evidence is in the Quran, Surah Al-Ahzab, when Allah reveals it to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he adopted his son and he took him by his name. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he revealed a verse that you call them by their father's name.
Ud'uhum li'aba'ihim. Call them by the names of their fathers. Tayyib. Okay. Tayyib.
So that's proof for
proof.
not changing it.
That is impermissible.
That is impermissible.
That's a proof that you shouldn't change in that last name, or that is haram. Between the two is like between the east and the west. I'm not trying to put doubt in you. I'm just making sure
That is haram.
that it's haram. Khair. Tayyib. MashaAllah. Khair, inshallah. They have a statement, Najm. And the Labib, yafhamu bil ishara. They say the wise, the smart one, he picks up on a signal. That's what the Arabs say. That the Labib, one who's intelligent, he picks up with what, Ali? You smack him upside the head or with just what? Just with a signal. Khair, inshallah. Tayyib. That's good though. And Najm brought us proof, solid evidence from the Quran. Tayyib. It may be a difference of understanding that proven evidence, but at least he brought a delay. Anyone else? Khalid. Hold on, Najm.
But as far as like changing the first name, or we're still on the issue of anyways, changing the first name, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he changed people's names when they had bad meanings, or if the name, so we've seen that many times in the Sunnah, or if the name itself had something praiseworthy. I think one of the instances was
Tazkiyah.
right.
What about Salih? Can the person have a name Salih? That's Tazkiyah? No doubt. Righteous.
Right.
What could be a greater Tazkiyah? Tayyib. Follow Sheikh, continue.
I think there's one specific example where the woman was named Barra, and he changed her name because it wasn't something that like a person should claim that I'm praiseworthy or something like this nature.
Tayyib, Najm. Jazakallah khair. Okay, we need to move on, Ikhwan. Does anybody have any other opinions about changing the last name? Follow. Abu Saeed.
Maybe if you don't know who your biological father was.
Right, the question is right now, before we go on, many people today, especially Muslims, or if you want to say quote unquote indigenous Muslims, okay, I'm not saying specifically African American or black, whatever term you want to use, in America, many of them believe, or they have the view that when they accept Islam, it's impermissible you cannot change your last name. Anybody ever heard this before? So, what is this based off of? Abu Hanif. Christianity. What is this based on? What is this belief that it's haram? I'm not saying that it isn't, but what is that? What is the proof for that? Right. We have until Friday, inshallah, to find out the answer.
Well, why a lot of African Americans do that?
Why they hold the view that it's impermissible
Well, maybe that came
to
from
change their last name. They say you cannot.
He was preaching that. So I don't know what you mean by that.
Preaching what? That you couldn't change your name?
They should, a lot of them, Clarence 13X, a lot of them, they came with that idea.
Slave name.
Yeah.
That it's impermissible to change it.
Well,
That's the opposite. It's the
But
opposite.
you can't change it.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I
That's
don't
the
know
difference.
where that
Everybody got it?
came from. Yeah, I don't know.
You got it, Ali? Sorry, everybody got it? Aslam.
I didn't even know that people held that view like that.
Yeah, that's very widespread. You find brothers named Abdullah, Abdurrahman, Donald, or Duncan, and you cannot change the last name. It's haram to change the last name because of kada wa kada wa kada. We want to make sure, or we want to ask, is this a proper understanding of that text? Okay, now, Najm, stay with me. You were mentioning what? How Allah says, call them to their fathers. Okay, this is a simple question. And when a person, let's say African American, he has a last name, Billingsley, right? Is that attributing himself to his father, Billingsley? Is that lineage to your father, Martin? Zakaria?
I was listening to Malcolm X, and he was mentioning that that when the slave owners, about 100 years ago, hundreds of years ago, when they had slavery, what the European slave owners would do is that they would give like slaves the last names to signify that that's the property of the person. So you'd find African Americans having last names like Donald and Brown and Black and stuff like that, right? So I mean,
So, is that only specific to European or Southern slavery?
no.
In Hadith, do people take the names of their owners too? This is an important concept, a very important concept. Right, moving on. Out of here, we have to understand something. Is that which is called Mahallul Niza? What is the issue of differing? What's the issue at hand? Often we get caught up in something that's not even the actual debate. Is that considered you ascribing yourself to your father? Is that your father's name? Even slavery or not, regardless. But is that your father's name? Whereas we have Osama ibn Zayd. Osama, the son of Zayd. For him to say Osama ibn such and such and change the name and ascribe or attribute himself to another man, that's one issue. So this is something I just want to get the people in a proper thought process. Khayr, inshallah. All right, tight. Let's move on to Andalus. Inshallah, we have
I can't remember if it's a hadith or something, but like when the women taking the names of the husbands, there's a prohibition because of Allah. On the day on Yom Qiyamah, He will call them by their father's names as well.
Right. There's a book called Al-Lu'lu' wal-Marjan فيما اتفق عليه الشيخان. Al-Lu'lu' wal-Marjan. It's a book in which includes the hadith that Bukhari and Muslim agreed upon by Sheikh Muhammad Fawad Abdul Baqi, rahimahullah. It's a book that a student of knowledge, without any doubt, should memorize by heart. And if you cannot memorize, or if you didn't memorize it yet, he should read it on a daily basis. If you read this book, Lu'lu' Marjan, you have the answer in 0.5 seconds, and Allah knows best. Or Sahih Muslim, Kitab al-Iman. The whole entire Sahih Muslim, Talib al-Ilm, should read cover to cover. Should memorize. He should try to. If he can. If not, the summarized version of Sahih Muslim. If he can't, at least he should read Sahih Muslim repetitively, over and over and over again. And if you can't read the whole entire Sahih Muslim, then at least on a daily basis is to read Kitab al-Iman from Sahih Muslim. Vital chapter. Important. The book of faith from Sahih Muslim, or the summarized version of Sahih Muslim. If you read that chapter, you will have the answer quickly. 1, 2, 3. Fine. Move on. We mentioned in the last class from the book Aksar al-Mukhtasarat of Ibn Balabban rahimahullah ta'ala with regards to furud al-wudu. We said that there are 6 furud of wudu. And we explained that in detail. Now, iftah, the author, he then says, faslun. He says, next chapter, after furud al-wudu, he says, يجوز المسح على خف ونحوه. يلا اقرأ.
فصل يجوز المسح على خف ونحوه وعمامة ذكر محنكة أو ذات ذؤابة وخمر نساء ومدارة تحت
وخمر نساء مدارات
وخمر نساء وخمر نساء مدارة تحت حلوقهن وعلى جبيرة لم تجاوز قدر الحاجة إلى حلها وإن جاوزته أو وضعها على غير طهارة لزم نزعها فإن خاف الضرر تيمم مع مسح موضوعة على طهارة ويمسح مقيم وعاص بسفره من حدث بعد لبس يوما وليلة ومسافر سفر قصر ثلاثة بلياليها فإن مسح في سفر ثم أقام أو عكس فكمقيم وشرط تقدم كمال طهارة وستر ممسوح محل فرض وثبوته بنفسه وإمكان مشي به عرفا وطهارته وإباحته ويجب مسح أكثر دوائر عمامة وأكثر ظاهر قدم خف وجميع جبيرة وإن ظهر بعض محل فرض أو تمت المدة استأنف الطهارة.
Right. Ahsant. Anyone else who wants to read? Any volunteers? Najim? Knowledge takes courage. La shak. Have you brave if you want to seek ilm. Okay? Can't be afraid in being successful in seeking ilm. Trust me. Khayr, inshallah. The author, he says, faslun. He says, يجوز المسح على خف ونحوه. Now, don't forget, ikhwan, we're not going to go into the khilaf. We're not going to go into the deep ins and outs of the situation. Our main or primary objective here is to understand the text of who? The author of the book. That is the first step in being a successful talib al-ilm. Most of us, and a lot of times it's not our fault, the common practice in teaching in America is the shutter. Gotta have the shutter. It's the shutter to this book. Shutter to that book. Shutter Sheikh Fulan. Shutter Sheikh Fulan. Shutter. Is this not the case? People will become obsessed with explanation. And there's some good in that. However, a lot of times the book in itself is clear. Or a lot of times the explanation of the book, wal-haq yuqal, the truth is said, a lot of times the explanation of the book does not dealing with the kalam of the mu'allif and making proper understand, to properly analyze the kalam of the author before the proof and evidence, before the khilaf, before this is incorrect and this is right. What did he mean? And if you do not take this as your methodology, know for sure you're not going to be a thorough student of knowledge. And your ilm is going to be mixed up and jumbled up and confused. You're going to go astray, you're going to mislead people astray. You're going to be at point D and you haven't reached point A successfully. You have to understand the kalam. You want to debate with someone. If you want to refute someone, the first step is to do what? To talk about them as a person. You're this, you're that, you're kether. So you meant this and you kether. What's the first step? It's to bring their kalam. And this goes both ways. Ali. Not for somebody to say, oh no, we're not defending. No, this goes both ways. Even in a thorough debate, and to refute someone properly, or to actually, like, destroy someone in a debate, the first step is their kalam. That's the first step. Before you get into the ins and outs, you can take what they say, and if you can successfully point out loopholes and find contradiction and inconsistency in their own speech, it's not too much more left. You understand? It can go both ways. You with me, Ali? It can go both ways. And being just and fair, huh? Because a lot of times we may be different. Abu Hanif on the issue. It's permissible to shave your head. It's permissible to wear a bald head. Okay? And I might be refuting him on something that we're not even seeing eye to eye on. He may have come from Umrah, Al-Hawala. Maybe he went to Medina and didn't see me. It's possible. Just yesterday, if I was in Medina, I want nothing, just like that. You can travel one side of the earth in less than a day now. It's mumkin, jiddan. So we may be different on an issue in which I haven't even properly understood his actual view or opinion, what he actually said. Kello, you understand the point I'm trying to get to? It's very important. This cannot be explained in detail. You have to understand the kalam of any book that you're reading before anything else. And if you don't do that, then it's going to be problems. Take this advice, inshallah. The author, he says, يَجُوزُ الْمَسْحُ عَلَى خُفٍّ وَنَحْوِهِ. Point number 1. Everybody stay with me, inshallah. Everybody stay with me. He says, it is permissible to wipe over a khuf. He says, وَنَحْوِهِ, and the likes. Something similar to a khuf. Anything like a khuf. He didn't say it's obligatory. He did not say it's recommended. He didn't say it's disliked. He didn't say it's haram. He said what? Yajuz. What does the sunnah say about wiping over the khuf? It's a different issue. What did the Sahaba and ulama of the past say about wiping over the khuf? That is what? It's a different issue. The first point from the author is that it's permissible. It is not haram to wipe over a khuf. He says, wa nahwihi. And something similar to a khuf. Such as what? A sock, a shoe, a slipper, perhaps. A cast, a scent. Okay? A splint. And so on and so forth. He says, wa nahwihi. But that's ba'id. That's far-fetched. Why is that? Because he says, wa nahwihi. Something similar to a khuf. And in most cases, a cast or a splint is not necessarily like a khuf, because it's only worn out of necessity. Even though that's going to be mentioned later on. But it goes back to the kalam. What's meant by nahwu? Fulanun nahwu fulanin. So-and-so is like so-and-so. It's a lot of similarities between them. Okay? And a cast is not necessarily 100% closely similar to a khuf. It's a bit different. It's a different style. It's a bit different. Keeping your feet warm, so on and so forth. Al-muhim wa nahwihi. So the author has given us the permissibility of wiping over these types of socks. He says wa nahwihi, or maybe not. Someone may come and say, no, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about something that's made from leather, something that's rugged for walking in an outdoor environment. Allahu A'lam. Moving on. He says wa imamati dhakarin. Point number 2, Juan. He says it's also permissible to wipe over, yani talking about wudu, to wipe over the turban of a man. The turban of a what? Of a man. Muhannakatin. That is beneath his chin. The turban is what? It's wrapped where? Beneath his chin. Not a turban that's wrapped up on top. He says the turban that is wrapped where? Muhannaka, tatahim. We say you have your baby, tahnik. That's where the term comes from. Ha, noon, kaf. Hanaka. Hink. Tahnik. A throat. Okay? He says, oh, dhati dhu abatin. And or if the turban is not wrapped beneath one's throat, as long as the turban has a tail. If the turban has a tail between his shoulders and his back, he says it's permissible to wipe over this type of. Everybody with me, Juan? It's very important. What do we benefit from this? That it's impermissible to wipe over what type of turban? Let's see who's smart, who's paying attention. What type of turban is impermissible to wipe over?
Like the ones that you see.
No.
The one that doesn't go between
Nope.
your shoulders.
Anything else with the
La. La. We didn't pay attention to the speech of the author. What's the first description that he mentioned about turban? He looked, subhanAllah.
No, I didn't look.
Go ahead,
It's
say it.
it's
Follow.
the turban of a woman.
Ahsanta. Ahsant.
Okay.
Jazakallah khair. If a woman is wearing a turban, according to the author, it is what? La yajuz. And her wiping over her turban will be invalid, her wudu will be invalid, her salah will be invalid. He specifically mentioned, he says, wa imamati dhakarin. And this is reality. There are some women in many cultures, even here in America, they wear what? Turbans, or that which they call a turban. We don't have to mention, okay? No names, no, okay? But it's known. And it's obviously, it was known during his time too. And in this country. It's not just a thing modern day, because he specifically mentioned the turban of a who? Of a male. So if a woman is wearing a turban, according to the author, she cannot wipe over it. Type. The next type of turban that is invalid to wipe over is what? A turban that is not beneath one's neck. Or that isn't, because if you don't have it beneath your neck, at least have it a tail. So if a man has a turban, if he wraps his head, no matter how big, no matter how small, whether he's from Sudan, certain times they wear turbans, they have no tail, and they're not beneath the neck. According to the claim of the author, he cannot wipe over this type of, For him now? We got this? According to the kalam of the author, he cannot wipe over this type of turban. These are restrictions that he laid down. Why? What's the proof? What's the dalil? Secondary issue. Most important is to understand the kalam of the author. And if you don't know the dalil, if you don't know the proof, then at least you have a salaf in the issue. Imam Fulan said in his book, you cannot say that I'm deviant, astaghfirullah, you have to wipe over it. I don't know, I'm not a student of knowledge. I haven't studied in detail, but I know I read in a book from the ulama of the past who said this. That's sufficient for now. And if you come across dalil and you properly understand yourself with that condition, that you properly understand yourself. It's one thing having a dalil, and it's another thing understanding the dalil. They're not the same as many people they think. Just because you memorize that dalil does not mean that that's proper usage of it. You can still be a muqallid with a dalil. It's very important. So, you have the proper understanding, that's one thing. And if there's not, and this is from the benefits of studying the mutun of fiqh, is that you have a precedent in the issue. It may be late at night, brother calls you on the phone, this and that. I have a quick question, it's an emergency. Can I wipe over my turban? You may not have time to think, yes, it's permissible because, you understand? Tight. Moving on. He says, now, just to, a little benefit, to show you some of the hikmah of the fuqaha of the past. Why did he mention these conditions? Why does the turban have to be beneath a man's throat or wrapped around his, however you want to word it? Why? Why can't it just be a normal turban without these conditions or these descriptions? Why is this? Okay.
Because it shows that it has to be more hard to take off, so you don't wipe over the head.
It has to be a difficulty in removing it. Fine. That's not a bad answer, but that goes against the usul of the Sharia. You can't do it because it's not hard. The law didn't send down that type of legislation.
It's attached to the body.
Attached to the body.
More connected.
Follow the sunnah. Closer. Sorry, next question. Is wearing a turban from the sunnah? No.
Yes,
It is. Why is it, Abu Hanif?
I mean, I've read it. I've read that Prophet ﷺ has had one turban.
That he wore a turban.
Yeah.
Like, Abu Hanif, why isn't it sunnah?
It is part of the deen. It's not something you legislate to do. You
So-
just wear something on top of your head, not necessarily a turban.
So what is the sunnah now? We having a debate. How do we get to the answer? What's the proper way of judging between them? Ali is what? Kitab Sunnah Ijma. In this issue, how do we deal with it? It's to define the term. No, sunnah. What is the sunnah? Everything that the Prophet ﷺ did, or everything that is attributed to him, benefit. So yeah, the importance of these books and these sciences. We explained this years ago in the masjid. كل ما أضيف إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Everything that is attributed to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, whether it's authentic or not, it gets the term hadith. And many scholars that say hadith and sunnah are synonymous. Al-Muhim. Anything that the Prophet did is considered a sunnah. Let's say that. So according to that definition, Abu Hanif will be right. The Prophet wore a turban, not at all. Several hadith. But Abu Amin may say something that the Prophet ﷺ did out of worship. Ibadah. And not something that was just merely customary. something that was a practice of culture. Did the Prophet ﷺ say anything about the turban? It's virtue. Wear turbans. Don't take off your turbans. Allah loves turbans. Did he address the issue of turbans in a religious sense? No. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. How many hadith are there on turbans? Several. We don't say that as students. We don't ever say that. We say we don't know. I haven't come across the hadith. Beware of saying no. Beware of saying no. Because indeed, the hadith is a pool, an endless sea of our hadith. When you think that you read a lot of hadith, I'm telling you from experience, you think that you have some knowledge of hadith, you just realize that you're just at the shore, you're in the sand. You're getting the sand cut. You haven't even gotten to the waves yet. Play it. This is very important in Quran. Play it. Al-Muhim. There are several hadith about turbans, about me. Many. The virtue of praying in turbans, more than 1,000 salats without a turban. Kathir. But those hadith are all spurious and fabricated. They're all made up. None of those hadith are authentic. So therefore, the correct opinion is that wearing a turban is yes and a no answer. It is a sunnah with the condition that you wear it with the intention of being like the Prophet ﷺ. And everything that he did. I want to look like him. I want to talk like him. I want to walk like him. I want to totally copycat everything from the Prophet ﷺ. Emulate him in everything. If you have that intention, then it is a sunnah, yes. Drinking or eating honey, Abu Sa'id. The Prophet ﷺ liked honey. He put honey in water and he drank it. Several ahadith about that. If you have that intention, then the honey becomes what? Sunnah. But if you just drink or eat honey because it's good, it tastes good, it's honey from Guyana, it's good honey, mashallah, without no intention. If you wear a turban because you think it's cool or it keeps you, cool in the deserts of North Africa or wherever you are, and you have no religious intention behind it, then it is not a sunnah. This type of sunnah is called sunnah ada. It's called sunnah ada. Something that was from the customary practice of the Prophet ﷺ, nothing to do with religion. And the only time it becomes a sunnah, according to the correct opinion, because it's khilaf, according to the correct opinion, is that when you do it with the intention of imitating the Prophet ﷺ. Very important concept. Right, moving on. So, women who wear turbans, why did he say that? The ulama, they say, is that these were the turbans of the Muslims. These were the turbans of the Muslims. And the turbans or the head coverings of the non-Muslims, the Jews and the Christians that lived under the protection of the Muslim state, Ahlul Dhimma, during the times when things were like this, they were not allowed to wear these type of turbans. We know during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, there was vast lands that were opened up. Vast lands. Islam spread. Countries all came to Islam. Okay? And there were new rulings. In Medina, there was no Ahlul Dhimma. There was believer, munafiq, Yehudi. A believer, a hypocrite, who was outwardly with the believers, and the Jews. There wasn't too many mushrikeen like that. Mecca was different. There were some Christians in Mecca. Some say there were even Jews in Mecca, such as Surah Al-An'am, which is a whole different issue. Why was Surah 6 revealed? It talks about Ahlul Kitab, and it's a Mecca surah. But that's a different issue. It's a different issue. Al-Muhim is that when Islam spread, there were new rulings. People now lived among Muslims that were not like before. What was the ruling? If they paid the jizya, they lived under protection of the Muslims, there were conditions. And from those conditions is that they could not dress 100% like the Muslims. It's a condition made by Umar. You cannot imitate the Muslims because there's different rulings. You're not oppressed. You're not oppressed. Okay, no one can oppress you and take your money and disrespect. No, but you're not equal as a what? As a Muslim. So there's a difference in Islam between justice and equality. They are not the same. There's justice and then there is equality. I have to treat everybody equal. The one who studies at night and reviews the class, I have to treat them like the one who doesn't review? Nah. Who said that? But I have to treat you just. Exactly. I cannot oppress you. But I don't have to treat you like no flies. He studied. He reviewed. You see the point? So these people were not allowed to look like the Muslims. They were not allowed. They were not allowed to look like the Muslims. And from them, some of them mentioned the types of turbans that they wore. The women could not cover like Muslim women cannot. Muslim women can cover. The Jew or Christian women who lived in the Muslim states were not allowed to cover up like Muslim women. And this is from the wisdoms, or this is one of the interpretations of that verse. ذَلِكَ أَدْنَا أَنْ يُعْرَفْنَا فَلَا يُؤْذَيْنَ. Allah says, covering yourself, drawing your khimar over your bosom, so on and so on and so forth. Adna is closer for those women to be known. Yani, known to be free Muslim women. Type. You see the point I'm trying to get to? What is the wisdom of this? The severe danger of imitating the kuffar. And the importance of being distinguished from the kuffar. So much so that he even spoke about it in the issue of fiqh, Ali. These turbans that have no tails, that are not wrapped beneath one's throat or one's neck, they said these are the turbans of the mushrikeen, the turbans of the kuffar. So therefore you can't wipe over them. And the turban that the Prophet wiped over, and the turbans that the companions wiped over were the turbans of the Muslims. He's trying to show you how important things can be. Right, let's move on. He then says, وَخُمَرِ نِسَاءٍ مُدَارَةٍ أو مُدَارَةٍ تَحْتَ حُلُوقِهِنَّ. It is also permissible, point 3. It is also permissible to wipe over the khimars of women, women's khimars, that are also tied or fastened beneath their necks, their huluq. Tayyib. In other words, if a sister just has a khimar and her neck is open, as many sisters wear, Abu Hanif, or just like a bun, tayyib, according to the author, it's impermissible for her to wipe over her. But if she has on a full khimar, if her neck is covered with a safety pin or wrapped up, then they say it's permissible to what? To wipe over it. The author says it's permissible for women to wipe over their khimars with that condition. Says, mudara, yani it's wrapped, circle, under their necks. Tayyib, and a Muslim woman's neck is not to be exposed anyway. It's impermissible. Her neck is to be covered, let alone other parts of her body. Okay, but especially the neck. Tayyib, khair inshallah. Point number 4. The fourth thing that is permissible to wipe over, he says, وَعَلَى جَبِيرَةٍ لَمْ تُجَاوَزْ قَدْرَ الْحَاجَةِ إِلَى حَلِّهَا. Point 4 is to wipe over a cast or a splint that does not go beyond the place of necessity. You can wipe over it for as long as you have to wear that thing. What does this mean? May Allah prevent you break your arm, a fracture, contusion, or whatever happens to your arm or part of your arm, you get a cast. You can't wash it. So you wipe over it according to the author. Any type of cast? What type of cast?
The one you can't remove.
Nah, he didn't say that. Where'd you get that from?
Arthur, the
Nah, author didn't say that.
Doesn't go past necessity.
I sent. In other words, the doctor said this is the cast doesn't have to go any further than here. He said, no, I want it all the way up to my elbow. You know, that way it's more comfortable, it looks better. I might have to hit somebody with it in a fight. No, really. This is a reality. This is a reality, okay? Or the doctor may say, you don't have to get it that high, but it may just be it may be better. It may be more comfortable. According to the author, you cannot wipe over that part of the arm. That whole jawazat, is beyond the place of need. Everybody understand? It's a very important concept in the Sharia. Very important concept in the Sharia. Ad-dururatu tuqaddaru biqadriha. Necessity stops at what? Necessity. It's permissible for you to do this. I had to take a loan out of the bank for kada or kada. That's it, ya akhi. $10,000, not $50,000, not $25,000. You see the point? This is the concept I'm trying to get to. Wallahi, this is very important on a daily basis as a Muslim. It is only permissible based off of what's necessity. And some scholars even mention that when it's permissible to drink alcohol, when it's permissible to eat the flesh of swine or carrion or any type of animal that has been properly slaughtered, they say you cannot eat till you're full. And some of them say that you can. But the point is that this supports this qaida, that necessity stops at necessity. And many Muslims, they abuse this. They abuse this. You see a sister, she said, I had to take off my hijab because I had to work to feed my children. Possibly, often. But you had to take off your full hijab. They didn't say you had to uncover your hair. Sahih? They never said that you had to wear tight clothes. They just said that the uniform cannot be an overgarment. And that's it. It stops there. They didn't say that you have to wear perfume and you have to put on jewelry. See what happens? At your job, may Allah prevent. They say, the beard, just, trim it up a little bit. Okay? And you feel that it's necessity. For whatever reason. Let's say it's necessity. They said trim your beard. They did not say shave it. They said we will accept a trimmed beard, but we would not accept a full beard. So this is impermissible. Even based off of that, a man cannot go and shave his beard now and say, I had a job, it was durur, it was necessity. My mother was in the hospital, she was sick, I had to pay for surgery. Possibly, it's mumkin. But the necessity stops where? Stops where, Juan? Stops at necessity. This is a very important concept. Does that make sense, Awani? Dealing with business is very important. Tayyib, moving on. He says here, وَإِنْ جَاوَزَتْهُ أَوْ وَضْعَهَا عَلَى غَيْرِ طَهَارَةٍ لَزِمَ نَزْعُهَا. He says, if a person puts on a cast and it goes beyond the place of necessity or need, or he put it on and he was not in a state of tahara, he did not have wudu or ghusl, he has to take it off and start from the beginning. In other words, when you go to the hospital, before they put it on your arm, say, wait, let me make wudu. Let me make wudu first, then you put it on, according to the author. According to the author. Everybody got this? Moving on. He says, فَإِنْ خَافَ الضَّرَرَ تَيَمَّمَ. He says, but, look at the precision of the fuqaha. If you fear that it's going to be harmful or detrimental to your health, it's okay. It's permissible to keep it, but you have to make tayammum. You have to make what? Tayammum. In other words, the tahara, purification, is Allah's right. And you can't just say, as many Muslims, mashallah, bismillah. It's okay, akhi, fear Allah. Islam is an easy religion. Islam is, deen is yusr, ya akhi. The religion isn't a hardship, akhi. The religion is la. Tayyib, moving on. He says, ma'a mashi mawdu'atin ala taharatin. Tayyib, to the end of that point. He says, wayams, how many things have we mentioned is permissible to wipe over?
4.
Which are they? What are they? Khuf, turban, khimar, ahsant, in general. Good. And then there are the details of what we've just explained. According to the, not all of the ulama. We didn't say that. According to who? That's all we said in this class. We didn't say this is correct. We didn't say it's incorrect. We didn't say it's ijma'. We said it's according to this author. Moving on. He says, وَيَمْسَحُ مُقِيمٌ وَعَاصٍ بِسَفَرِهِ مِنْ حَدَثٍ بَعْدَ لُبْسٍ يَوْمٍ. What time is it in, Ikhwan? 9:30ish.
Check.
The author then says, وَيَمْسَحُ مُقِيمٌ. Now he's going back to the details of wiping over these things, especially the khuf. He says, وَيَمْسَحُ مُقِيمٌ وَعَاصٍ بِسَفَرِهِ مِنْ حَدَثٍ بَعْدَ لُبْسٍ يَوْمًا وَلَيْلَةً.
The ikama is 9:50.
He says here, everybody stay with me, Najim. He says a person who's at home, who's not traveling, that's the opposite. Someone who's a resident, or someone who's traveling during acts of disobedience. Someone who's at home, or someone who's a traveler, but he's disobedient, he's making sin, they have the permissibility to wipe for a day and a night after the first time they break their wudu. What does this mean, right? The first way of understanding this, what, Abu Bakr, is that the muqim, anyone who isn't on a journey, is permissible for him to wipe over what he mentioned. A khuf, turban, splint, woman's khimar. For how long? A day and a night. He didn't say 24 hours. He said, a day and it could be 24 hours, inshallah, but he said a night and a day, or a day and a night. Tayyib? Or, number 2, or slash, is someone who's traveling. Because we know that a traveler can wipe longer. But any type of traveler?
No.
What type of traveler did he mention here?
Sin.
Someone who's doing sin. He's on tour. Not in Dawah tour, Salahuddin. Music tour, or any other type of haram tour. He's a merchant. He's not selling permissible things. He's going around selling things that are haram from state to state, Abu Sa'id. But he's Muslim, alhamdulillah. He believes in Allah. He's Muslim. He knows what he's doing is wrong. I have to feed my family. You know, this is the only thing I know how to, I went to the masjid. I asked the brothers for any jobs, any construction jobs. Wallahi, this is a reality, Ikhwan. It's a reality. Can anybody help me out? I'm looking for, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Maybe the masjid, he thought they were racist. They treated him like this because he wasn't from their country. human being is created. Allah created the human being with the innate disposition of survival. The fitrah of what? Survival. And the human being is going to survive by any means that it knows. So the man is traveling now. He's selling something that's haram, whatever that thing may be. But he's still, alhamdulillah, he's going to pray. I want to make salat. He's still a believer. What I'm doing is haram, but I still know that I the salat. Not like many Muslims today. Oh, well, I'm selling this haram thing, so let me not pray. Let me not go to the masjid. No. That's wrong. Tayyib? It's very important. Pass on this message. Many people, they think this. Many women, they don't cover properly, so they just, let me not make salat. If you go and put on the khimar and put on the overgarment and pray and take it back off, that is better than just not praying. If you drink, if you smoke, if you do things that are haram, may Allah help us all. It's best. Not best, obligatory. You pray. And if you go back to something, or if you're still in the fitna of that thing, do not ever leave off the prayer. Period. And the moment the shaitan gets you leave off the prayer, khalas. Finished. It's a very important concept. Moving on. The author, he says, these people have the permissibility of wiping over their hoofs, right? No. He didn't say just hoofs. 4 things. Not just hoofs. We're not just talking about hoofs anymore. Or let's say we are talking about hoofs, for argument's sake. How long can you wipe over it, Mikhail?
For a day and a night.
A day and a night. The traveler who's doing disobedience and the Muslim who is a resident. Ahsant. When does the time begin? When does the time period? When does the 24 hours begin? After he puts on the hoof or the sock? According to the author, I said when he breaks the wudu. The moment he breaks the wudu, then the time is moving there. You got it? He puts on the sock. He makes wudu before the adhan for Fajr. He puts on his hoofs. He keeps his wudu until 8 a.m. He can wipe over his socks or his hoofs until when? Tomorrow at Fajr. According to the author. Min ba'di hadath. After the first time he broke his wudu. Moving on. He then says, وَمُسَافِرٌ سَفْرَ قَصْرٍ ثَلَاثَةً بِلَيَالِيهَا. Number 2, a traveler who's on a distance in which he can shorten the prayer 3 days along with their nights. The one who's traveling, any trip, any journey. What type of journey? Ascent. In other words, according to this scholar and according to his madhab and those fuqaha, every time you travel doesn't mean it's permissible to shorten your prayer. That's clear, correct? Moving on. So, obviously, this type of person is not disobeying the law on this trip. He's actually doing some type of obedience. He's being a good Muslim. If that wasn't the case, then he would be like the Ascent, who only has a day and a night, according to the author. This is not ijma'. There's no consensus on this. There's other opinions, stronger, but that's not what we're talking about right here. Okay? Moving on. He says, how many hours can you wipe over his hoofs at what mean?
Times?
Yes. You dealt with the numbers first, so we're going to go back to you.
Unlimited.
Allahu Akbar. Unlimited. I like that word. Subhanallah. That's a nice word, Aki. Abu Hamid never fails. How many hours, Aki, can you wipe over his leather socks? How many hours? He said 3 days and nights. 72. That's the answer of me. Not unlimited.
Oh, you asked me how many times?
No, how many days? How many hours? How many hours?
How many hours? I would have got that.
Did I say time for days?
Yeah, I thought you said time.
What
Yeah.
time?
No, you said hours.
Oh,
Okay.
just hours?
Alhamdulillah.
He said how many times?
He said time.
Yeah.
Abu, alright? Allahu Akbar. Abu Unlimited. Maybe Allah Alam. Allah Alam. Right. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Moving on. He says, فَإِنْ مَسَحَ بِسَفَرٍ ثُمَّ أَقَامَ أَوْ عَكَسَ فَكَمُقِيمٍ. Next condition is, if a person is traveling, and then he reaches his destination, he reaches home, Or the opposite. Somebody's home and he's on a time limit. Then he goes and he travels. What does he do? How does he deal with it? You understand the issue? Okay, tight. I'm in Saudi Arabia, in Medina. My flight is at 12 a.m. Let's say, for example, this is an example. I made wudu. I washed my feet after Salatul Isha. Approximately 8:45, 9 o'clock. Yani p.m. 9 p.m. My flight is at 12 a.m. Okay? Stay with me. Now, I've made Isha and I made my sunnahs, inshallah, and my witr, inshallah. Then I used the bathroom. I broke my wudu. How many hours have went by since 9 p.m. and the 12 a.m. flight?
3 hours.
3 hours. Good. I'm in Jeddah now. Before we get to JFK, I'm in Jeddah. Sahih, I'm still traveling. Sahih, I'm still what?
Traveling.
I'm still traveling. How many hours have went by? The flight from Medina to Jeddah is approximately hour and 20 minutes. You got 4 hours and 20 minutes. In Jeddah, let's say I get to Jeddah at 1:30, 2 a.m. Recheck in your bags, go through security again, get something to drink, sit down. The flight from Jeddah to JFK is the boarding starts at 4:30, but the actual flight is 5 a.m. How many hours did I have a layover in the airport in Jeddah? 4 hours roughly. 4 and 4 is 8 hours. We have 8 hours and 20 minutes. I get to JFK Airport after 12 hours of traveling. How many hours are we so far?
20 hours right there.
That's 20 hours and 20 minutes. Let's say I live in JFK. I don't live in Philadelphia no more. This is just hypothetical, of course. But let's say I do. Right? I say I moved to New York City. Can I wipe over my socks?
Yes.
How long can I wipe over my socks for?
3 hours and 40 minutes.
That's it?
Inshallah.
What do you say?
Oh, you said 3 days, though. You traveled. Or you went to the office.
You're a resident now.
You came home.
I started as a traveler, then I went to
Oh, home. The home.
but that's still not 100% right. Because I was a resident in Medina first.
Yeah, so you still
Then I became a traveler. So the general rule is not to make anything confusing, is that if you start at home and you go on a travel, or if you start on travel and go home, the author says, فَكَمُقِيمٍ. Then you then take the ruling of a
Travel.
resident
Oh.
in any situation. Why is that? Because you go back to yaqeen, certainty. And the certainty is that the person wipes over his socks for at least a day and a night. That's the hukum. The traveling thing is extra. The asl is that a person is at home on the road. Saladin. It all depends on the brother, right? Some brothers live on the road. Yeah, so hey, but the asl of the normal, natural type of human being is that he's where? Is that he's home. And traveling is the exception to the rule. And Allah knows best. Certain brothers travel. Tayyib, khair inshallah. Zakaria, you notice in the author's kalam how he doesn't make long, drawn out sentences and paragraphs?
Simple, concise.
How not even a simple, concise, the actual Arabic. فَهُوَ كَكَذَا فَكَذَا. One word, one letter can take the place of a sentence. And this is the wisdom of a metin. A small booklet that has to be accent. Like you decompressed. You extract it. But you don't carry around a big, large file. And this is the wisdom of studying these small books. But you don't study the small books by yourself. Khair inshallah. Moving on. The author he then says, bear with me, Ikhwan. I know it's a lot of details. Okay, but this is very important when you live this in a practical sense. He says, فَإِنْ مَسَحَ فِي سَفْنٍ ثُمَّ قَامَ. He says, وَشَرْطُ أَوْ وَشُرْطَ تَقَدُّمْ كَمَالِ طَهَارَةٍ. What are the conditions for wiping over these things, or specifically the khufs? Number one is that you must have perfect tahara. You must have what? Perfect tahara. Time for you then?
Yeah.
Right.
Right now. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن
أطفي
محمدا
أطفي الشاشة.
رسول
Turn the power
الله
off. Turn the power off. It's not unlimited.
حي على الصلاة
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
حي على الصلاة
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Khair, inshallah. Before we stop for the salat, he says here, first condition is that the khuf, or whatever you're wearing, but let's just deal with the khuf, has to be placed on or put on, has to be worn with complete tahara. In other words, you make wudu, you wash your feet. You don't, you put on a khuf on your right foot, then you wash your left foot, and you put on the khuf. According to the author, that's invalid. You have to have complete tahara first. You have to be finish your wudu or finish your ghusl, then place your khufs on. Everybody got this? Everybody understand this? Right. He then says, وَالسَّتْرُ مَمْسُوحٍ أو وَالسَّتْرُ مَمْسُوحٍ مَحَلِّ فَرْضٍ. Condition number 2 is that the original place in which you would make wudu, the obligatory part of your feet to wash, the parts that you must wash, has to be totally covered by what you're wearing on your foot. Khuf wa nahwihi. In other words, if your khuf, if half of your foot is exposed, you have a big gaping hole in your sock or in your khuf, according to the author, is invalid. Why? Because the hole is in the bottom of your foot. All right. When you make wudu, do you have to wash this, Mikhail, or can this be left dry?
You have to wash it.
So therefore, if you have on a khuf, it's exposed, you haven't covered the obligatory place. So according to the author, the khuf or the sock or whatever it is has to cover everything that must be washed. Condition number 3. He says, وَثُبُوتُهُ بِنَفْسِهِ. As the khuf has to stay on by itself. Has to stay on what? By itself. You can't hold up the khuf and wipe over it. It has to be something that you put on your foot and it stays on your foot. It's important. It's an important concept. You keep in mind, Juan, this is a summarized book that one needs.
Sheikh, they have to get rid of all their old socks they have now.
SubhanAllah. Yani, not to make any confusion or to go off against our minhaj, yani, the correct opinion, without any doubt, is that it's permissible to wipe over a sock that has a rip or hole in it. That's the qawl sahih. Whether it's a khuf or a sock. As long as the hole isn't too big. Okay? The qawl sahih is that it's permissible to wipe over a sock that has holes, that has a hole or holes in it. La bas. That's supported by the proof and evidence. As Shaykh Hassan Taymi rahimahullah ta'ala explained in detail. But that's not ijma. Some of the ulama say no, can't have any holes in the sock. And some of the ulama say they can have holes in the socks, but it's depending on how big the hole is. Moving on. Shaykh Sulaiman, he broke the tradition. Like, we don't get no khilaf, no correct or incorrect opinions. Like, I only broke that rule for 2 reasons. One, because Haqqahu alayna kabir, he has a big right over us as an elder in Islam. And secondly, because it's something that is very important and it's something that you're doing in your daily life. You may walk off from the class thinking it's haram, you can't wipe over a sock that has a hole in it. But he's an alim of the past. Out of him. No more breaking rules. Anybody break the rule again, Suleiman, you're going to get the sentence for it. Whoever makes a sunnah in this land. Right, moving on. The author, he says, what's the next condition? He says, وَإِمْكَانُ مَشْيٍ بِهِ عُرْفًا. Condition number 4 is that you must be able to walk in that thing. You must be able to walk in that cloth according to the custom of the people. If you can't walk with the sock or the hoof or the shoe, whatever, you can't wipe over it. It can't just be something that you wear just going to bed and wipe over it. You may make a face. What is this? What's the point? You may wear certain things just to go to sleep in, but you can't walk with it. In other words, the nature of the hoof is different than another type of sock. But that's a long issue that we're not going to get into right now. Last condition, he says, وَطَهَارَتُهُ وَإِبَاحَتُهُ. The hoof has to be pure and it has to be permissible. It must be pure and it must be lawful. What's the opposite of that? Quickly, we gotta pray. Yalla. Dirty. How dirty? Got dirt on it? Dust? Najasa. I said something legislative or legally impure. Urine. Or blood of a pig. I said the swine or minces smeared on the sock. You can't wipe over it according to the author. Or being lawful. What does that mean, Abu Sa'id? I sent. If you stole the socks, huh? It's a reality. The books of fiqh don't leave out anything. And this is one of the benefits of studying this. You see how it's systematic? This is a small book with a poor explanation. Imagine you take another small book with a proper explanation and you study book, medium, large, extensive, 10, 15 years, or whatever years out of your life studying fiqh like that. How would you be exactly? It's a difference, but you just take a book here and a book there and a shake, and this is correct, and this is bata, and this is bid'ah, and he said it. You now have nothing. Your fiqh is going to be mushy. Right? Starting just like that. Mushy. That's the term we're going to use. Tayyib, khair inshallah. Moving on. The author, he then says, وَإِبَاحَتُ. The khuf can't be stolen. Or the khuf can't be. Let's see who wants a gift. I sent. But not 100%. There's more detail left. If you want your gift. Made out of silk. What about a woman who wipes up her khuf?
It's made of gold.
No, wait. Hold on. Ali, how does that work? What if a woman wipes up her khuf? She has silk khufs.
She stole that silk.
Nah, we didn't say stolen. We said silk. Permissible or impermissible? So you have to restrict your kalam. Silk for a man. Ahsant. Or someone may say silk that is pure silk. As for if it's a mix or a blend, that's a different issue. 40, 60, 30, 70. It's a whole different issue. Many ulama say, many of the Sahaba, they wore clothes like this that was mixed with silk. And many of them have the view that it was pure silk, just like pure gold. But you'd be surprised, some people may have gold clothes. It's cologne overseas, there's gold in it. I've seen it. Gold, actual pieces of gold in the cologne. Wallahi. Not shak. Right here, Ali, you got a fresh real. This is right from Medina. Right here. Spend it on your next Umrah trip. Inshallah. Tayyib. Khair inshallah. Let's say the khuf was made from gold. It's possible.
Tell me something. I think it's fresh. What year? 2014?
Tayyib. Najim, this is important. The gold, it's possible. They have gold lining and stitching in clothes, yes. When the khuf was stolen, let's say the khuf was so on and so forth. Clear. Alright? Tayyib. Or another issue, Ali, how deep things get. Let's say the man had a sickness in his feet. He was ill. He had a very bad skin, shaped feet. It's permissible for him to wear pure silk. It's permissible to wear silk if a person is extremely ill, so on and so forth. See? Now, if you don't have this basic qaida understood, how are you going to build on it? You see how the fiqh works? If it's kadha, boom, 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 boom. How can a talib ilm? That's how you grow and you progress. But if you don't have the basis locked down, solid, you're going to build and it's going to be mushy. I said it. Tayyib, khair inshallah. Before we offer the prayer, he then says, وَيَجِبُ مَسْحُ أَكْثَرِ دَوَارِ إِمَامَةٍ. Tayyib. We ran out of time. It's a little bit left. Hopefully we'll have another chance to explain this. Bi-idhnillah. Now I'll make it easy for us all. I mean, anything that we mentioned that is good is only from Allah. Anything that's not so good or incorrect is from my ignorance as I said once again, this is the kalam of the author. Hopefully, I've done a good enough job in presenting what the author was saying. This is a disclaimer once again. Does not mean that the speaker agrees with everything and it is his own personal conviction on the issue. La. Does not mean that all the ulama say is what the author of the book mentioned. Class? So no one go and say, Mufti said you can't wipe over your socks. Mufti said you can wear a silk shirt. So hey, that's what happened, right? Abu Hanifa? No doubt. Muhammad said, not Mufti. Muhammad said Keda. He said this and he said that. That is what the author said. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Anybody have anything they want to add? Anything you want to correct or questions? Now is the time.
Just for clarifying,
what's the room I have in a boy head?
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that, inshallah. Hey, inshallah.
Just for clarifying purposes, the purpose of this class and future classes is not for us to take the fiqh issues that you're presenting as any kind of.
Why not? So just
I'm asking questions.
Hold on.
Or it's not for that. It's more or less for a method of looking into fiqh. That's pretty much.
It's a yes and a no answer. A yes and a no. It all depends on the person. Yes and no. Yes and no. In Islam, there's yes and no. Tayyib? From one aspect, yes, there is a message I'm trying to get across to you brothers. There's no doubt about that. A message of cleaning and perfuming. First step, we have to clean. Tasfiyah wa tarbiyah. As Shaykh Al-Albani said, we have to cleanse. We have to get rid of all the dirt, all of the rust that's been placed on our understanding. Fiqh is you pick up a book one day. Literally, fiqh is khilaf. Sheikh Fulan. That has to be cleansed, washed away. Or another way, that has to be demolished. This joist right here is no good, Saladin. We can't support it. It has to be knocked down. Period. And we have to build a new one. So that's obvious, especially for the younger brothers who aspire to go overseas and learn. Khalid, inshallah, and others. And that is that you have to have a proper manhajiyah, a proper systematic way of studying, as we explained in Baykuniyah. And you have to start off like that. Okay? And that's one concept. Another concept that we're trying to get across is the concept of inkar, of criticizing and refuting. It makes no sense for you to criticize or refute something that you yourself don't properly understand. You yourself don't know the dalil for. You yourself are blindly following another person. Rather, it's haram, as the scholars of the past have mentioned. La yajuz. For me to make inkar on something that I don't know of why. I'm a follower, I can't force him to be a follower. And that is something that has plagued our communities for a very long time. On both sides of extremism. Far to the right and far to the left. Under what title, what term it is given. This, madhab, fulan, this, that, any term that you give. That's wrong. Now, I could say, I don't think you should do that with Saeed. I don't think it's advisable to do that. Inshallah. I read in the book, I heard the sheikh saying in class, I cannot say it's haram to wear a brown leather jacket. Why? I don't know, but I know that Sheikh Fulan in the masjid said it. Can't do that. You cannot make inkar, and you do not know the dalil and the usage of the dalil. So we're trying to break that. And one of the means of that is looking at the kutub al-fiqh. You see how deep stuff is. Stuff that you thought was like this is not like that. Things that you think is agreement of the ulama, and it's not. So that's a bigger message. And no doubt, you can also benefit from the book itself. Okay? But it doesn't mean that you go and run outside and whatever in the thing, you implement. No, it doesn't mean that. But it's a systematic, progressive way of studying fiqh. Oh, and we have different type of classes. Sometimes we do Bulugh al-Maram, which we start off with the hadith. And then we actually mention the khilaf and we say this is correct. And sometimes, it all depends on the style, on the mood, however it is. So it's a yes and a no answer. Clear? The fiqh opinion, that's your own personal, I can't force it. What you believe is what you believe.
Does he give dalil in this particular method?
Say that again?
Does he give dalil in this method? Does he give?
No.
He just gives his.
There's no dalil in this method. Many mutun, especially those that are smaller, they do not mention the dalil. And there's reasons why. From the reasons why, if they mention the dalil, the method becomes bigger. Secondly, when we're talking about fiqh, and you say anything else, talking about fiqh, many ulama they hold the view that the student should be trained. He should understand and should cover from A to Z without no delay as a beginner, as a step, which makes sense. You don't teach and explain everything to a baby, or do you? Evident. Don't touch that. It's hot when it's small. Then you get a little older, you explain it to him. It's going to burn your hand. You get a little older, don't do that because of Kether. They get older, they get older, they get older. But the baby, small infant, you don't explain that because he's an infant. It's sufficient for the infant to listen and to understand. And you understand? When you start off, not saying that it's impermissible or it's bad to do that, but this is a concept of many of the matter past. Yes, and it teaches discipline. Without a doubt, teaches what? Teaches discipline. Teaches discipline. And another wisdom of these classes is that, not saying like, we don't have time, and I'm not here all the time. I'm only here for a short period of time, in and out. But if I was like actually sitting and like established in a place or masjid for some time, if I started an actual school and I actually took and trained people from day one, we would start off with something slower, simpler than this. And from the wisdoms of that is that it weeds out people that are not sincere students. It weeds out people that are hasty and reckless. You weed them out because no one's going to sit in this class. I want the delay. I want what Sheikh Fulan said. Not Sheikh Fulan, Sheikh Fulan. Only, honestly. So, you understand, Mikhail? That gives discipline, teaches you patience, and it weeds all those people out. They're going to drop out of the class like flies, literally. Teach Arabic if you don't believe this. Teach your Arabic class, but teach it in a proper way. When I study Ajrumiyya, we don't know basic word for cat and dog and rat in Arabic. How are we going to teach Ajrumiyya? No, I want to learn Ajrumiyya. I want to learn grammar. Try it out. Do it. First class will be full. Next class, 5 people. Next class. And then you see the people that are dedicated students. People that really want to learn the proper way. So there's many wisdoms in this. You see what I'm saying? If you want to make a comparison to martial arts, the one who just wants to hurt people and wants to have flashy moves and break people up and no. Come in to the dojo. We're not doing no techniques, no weapons, just run laps or punch the board or whatever you want to do. That's it. I'm not being funny. This is a reality. 6 months. That's right. No, that's it. Just do that. Not check. He's going to become tired. That's all I've been here all this time. All I've learned. There's wisdom behind that. Even though that's a lesson in itself, but there's wisdom behind that. Patience. And then there's a big problem when you take someone as a student that doesn't have the proper integrity. He's going to take that knowledge and he's going to cause confusion. Become arrogant, conceited, and haughty, and he's going to destroy. You have to be selective. So there's many, many wisdoms in this. But at the end of the day, if you hear something, as we said, this is a reliable source. I'm a general Muslim. I work 12 hours out the day. I don't have time to read and study. I work all the time to take care of my kids. I don't know, wiping over the side like this and like that. He's from the ulama. Allah says, ask the people of knowledge. If you do not, no. And that's the different issue, the issues of taqleed, the issues of ittiba, the concept of asking questions, fatwas. That's a whole separate lecture series that needs to be done. That's a whole separate lecture. And all of that stuff needs to be cleansed and it needs to be perfumed. In other words, once you clean it, then you put on the perfume. As Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala said. He said, I asked Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, my teacher, what is best? Istighfar or tasbih? What's best? To say astaghfirullah or to make thana, to praise Allah, to laud Allah. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he said it all depends on the slave. If the slave has a lot of sins, if he's short, he has a lot of shortcomings, if he falls short, he says that he should make istighfar more. As for the slave, inshallah, has more good deeds, inshallah, he's a good doer, tasbih, and so on and so forth. And he made a similitude. Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned a similitude of a thobe, like this. Traveler. Dirty thobe. It doesn't make no sense for me to spray it with cologne and, that. The thobe has to be, what has to be done first?
Wash.
Thorough wash. Tied. Only tied. Only tied. Right, Omar? Nothing else, right? That's the understanding. It has to be tied. Nothing else is permissible to be used. Only tied. Only powder. This is a very important issue. The thobe has to be cleansed. Wash it thoroughly. Then you perfume it. And this is the same concept with things that we have been miseducated in. Especially something so vital and essential as fiqh. Malish, please forgive me, Ikhwan. Somebody's teaching a class. He himself has not taken the thorough, proper training. Period, as a student. let alone in the book. If we ask you, do you have ijazah in this book? For argument's sake, do you? You teach in the class in this book, Zakaria. Have you been taught this book? How many times have you studied the book? That's the first strike. It's the first strike. Second strike is the way that you teach the book. Well, you start off with the khilaf, refuting the author, and as Hafiz ibn Hajar mentioned, he says, وَالشَّارِحُ مِنْ شَأْنِهِ أَنْ يُوَجِّهَ الْكَلَامَ مَا أَمْكَنَ or مَهْمَا أَمْكَنَ. Hafiz ibn Hajar said in the explanation of Sahih Bukhari, he says the one who's explaining the book, he should make an excuse for the author and try to direct and steer the kalam of the author in a straight way as much as possible. As long as it's not distorting something that's clear, the author, inshallah, he meant this, inshallah. As much as possible. No, strike two, this is a mistake of the author, page 1. This is khata, hadith batil, this and that, and this and that, and the other. La yahi. It's not like that. Then who are you teaching? What are people you teaching? How are you teaching them? How are you educating them? As many of the companions said in the past, such as, I believe, Ibn Mas'ud, if it was not someone else, he says putting wisdom in an improper place is like putting a pearl necklace around a pig. To take hikmah and to put it in an improper place, that's the similitude of it. In other words, you teach on a high technical level to people that don't understand the basics. 3 strikes in your what? I would say, send it out. Kalas. No matter how good of a batter you may be. You see what I'm saying? So what we're trying to do in the near future is to revamp and get rid of all of that. Start from day one, clean. And then comes the good smelling itter. Right, Uncle Faz? The good itter.
Inshallah.
That smell, that fresh aroma of sunnah, of ilm, of knowledge, of fiqh. And indeed it has an aroma. But if the aroma has a stench with it, then it's going to be mixed. Allah knows best. Hold on.
Going back to what you mentioned.
How you been, Akhi? That's the first question. How you doing?
Fine.
How's where you at in Sakina? Yeah, Allah bless them all. Alhamdulillah.
It's nice to see you.
You can't use my tactics. You can't use my tricks. Right? So a lot of things you tell them. Answers go with the question. You can't do it. You can't. It's not. It's a lot of things you tell them. It's not gonna work. Just submit. Don't go against it. Allah.
How's your trip?
Uncle Pa's gonna get it too. Father Najm.
The issue which you brought up in one of the conditions.
I brought up or the author?
The author. In mentioning what the author stated.
Jazakallah khair. Sure.
It's
not. Alright, Mikhail? I told you, Mufti said Mufti said that it's impermissible to wipe over this type of socks. The brother was giving a class and he said you can wear silk. I've wanted to wear this silk shirt in my closet for 20 years now. Alhamdulillah. Hold on.
The author mentioned being that the khuf has to be coming from something that's lawful. Does that include also like the tanning, like that it was?
Yes, that can be included in it. What type of hide is it? Okay, but that's both of them, because let alone the ibaha part, that's more or less dealing with the permissibility of it, like stolen and silk and stuff. But it being tahira,
Right.
the animal is dead,
Right.
the skin,
Well, yeah.
right? Is it was it a sheep? Was it kether? Was it snakeskin? Snakeskin socks? Snakeskin shoes? Is it permissible to wipe over them? That then goes to another issue. That's khilaf of the ulama with regards to the different types of animal skins or hides that can be used. Yes, that's a whole different issue. And it's long difference of opinion with regards to that. Shokani explained. And Nail al-Autar. I sent. So that's the proper track of thought. Alhamdulillah.
The principle that you mentioned, taking only the right amount of necessity. What is the Arabic term for that? Taking that only.
SubhanAllah. I've been going that long, Najm. Who can remind him of the rules of the class?
You give, you ask. You
No, it's another one. It's another rule.
Mentioning things if you miss out.
Not 100%. We're not trying to be harsh, but if it's what? Kalas.
No, we didn't mention the Arabic term. What it's called.
Tayyib.
I just want to know what the Arabic term.
Dururatu. I did mention that.
Okay.
Dururatu. تقدر بقدرها. الضرورة تقدر بقدرها. Or there are other terms, other ways of wording it. Najm, alhamdulillah, we can make an exception to Najm. Yani, just as we have discipline and structure in the class, we also have respect for a student that gives, alhamdulillah, inshallah, a brilliant student who works hard, who comes to the class, mashallah, and who does good, he also has respect. And I can tell you, a lot of my teachers I had in Medina, some of the hardest teachers. Not all of them, specifically one I want to mention. This Sheikh Saud al-Jarru'i, hafidhahullah. It was known, notorious in the College of Hadith. Like, no one wanted his exams. Okay? Now, his classes were extremely beneficial. Alhamdulillah, he taught me for 2 years. Yani, not 2 consecutive years, but 4 semesters. Okay? And the main topic of Qur'an Hadith, which is fiqh al-Hadith. The fiqh of the Hadith, okay? Which is one of the most difficult topics. Because there's so much that's included in it. Out of him, Sheikh was difficult. In the college, he's known, reputation. But what's the highlighting point from it? Is that any student of knowledge that was dedicated, that was smart, that came to class, that participated, that worked hard, he would give him an award of respect. And he would love that student. He would never ever treat him bad, ever. And the Sheikh, a lot of times he was so harsh because he wanted the old days, students of Hadith. Not some person who graduates from the College of Hadith, Allahu musta'an, yani. Wallahi, that how do you have a certificate from Hadith and say this and do this, and it wasn't like that back in the day. Okay? So the point I'm trying to get to is that there's no extremism in the religion. You be hard on your student, yes. You be hard on your student, but at the same time, you also respect your student. And you have love too. It's a balance. And as long as they do good, then you give them a little rahmah, yani. Only a little bit. Hey, clear. Allah knows best. خيرا إن شاء الله. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا.